Okay, let's talk about sleeve plackets. So it's a little bit tricky, I'm not gonna lie. You should have 3 notches on your pattern. These are for the pleat. They'll pleat over like this. And this is for the slit of the placket. This is the right side of my fabric. It's gonna end up that the big side of the placket is gonna end up on the same side as the pleats. This is the right side of the placket, but I'm actually gonna work from the wrong side. Flip it over. Okay, and I'm going to line up. It's going to be the right side of my placket against the wrong side of my garment. And I'm going to place these. This slit is going to be the center. I'm going to place my plackets on the top like that. So I've just drawn in some stitching lines here. They're about 1/4 inch from where these match up. I'm going to sew along them, and I'm going to stop, oh, I don't know, about this far from the end. How much is that? Let's say it's about 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to do the other side. It's very important, I actually prefer not to have pins here, that you stop your stitching in exactly the same place. Okay? Okay, the next step is we're going to cut up here. We're going to stop our cutting about there. So I'm just going to cut up here. Stopping there and then cutting up to exactly the end of the stitching line without going through it. I'm going to turn it over now. Okay, we're going to deal with one side at a time. This is the right side of the fabric. I'm going to take my placket side, my under placket, this square, rectangular one, and I'm going to press this over like this. And I'm going to press this once and twice. Okay? So once over, how much is that? 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to overlap it exactly on the top here. Okay, I'm going to move these out of the way, and I'm going to sew along here. Let's sew this down, finishing where this row of stitching ends. So I'm just going to pin stitch it down. Use a pair of tweezers to help you sew so you don't sew yourself. It's important that you don't catch any of those ears of fabric that we clipped. Okay, so we have that under placket. Now we're going to take this side and flip it through. Pressing these seam allowances over. And then what we're going to do is just bring all of this fabric to the front here. So on the back, at this point, it will look kind of like a window, I suppose. Now what you're going to do is we've got this triangle of fabric and we've got this rectangle of fabric, and we're going to sew them together I'm just going to pin it to show you, but then to tell the truth, I prefer not to use pins for this. Okay. So I have it pinned, a little ear of fabric here. So what I like to do is I like to turn it over, without bashing the camera. Turn it over like this. You can see it's just this wee triangle of fabric. I take out that pin. I'm just going to sew just this really small amount here. Just like that. That's just neatly secured it on the wrong side. Okay. Don't clip away anything at this point. Just want to make sure that that things lie correctly. Now you're going to fold it along here. I know it seems counterintuitive. You want to fold it here where the corner is, but don't. You're going to fold it over to create the seam allowance here. Okay. And then the same amount over here. Sorry, you just have to get it out of the way. Press flip, move it over so you can see. Okay. This folded edge here is going to go right on top of that stitching line there, all the way down. Okay. And then I'm going to neatly fold these under. I'm going to do that on the ironing board and then come back and show you. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I did. So this was the under placket. We folded it over here and then we're folding it this side of that cut line so that it neatly overlaps here. And then I folded this edge so that it kind of lines up with that row of stitching here. And then I neatly folded this apex here. It's not super neat. At this point, if you're a perfectionist, you can use something like this tape. This is wash away tape. It dissolves in the wash after you're done. You can use this to tape your work down. You don't have to. You can pin it, you can baste it, but you know, sometimes it can be a real pain in the butt. This is not an industrial way to do things, but you can certainly use tools like this to help you get a really neat finish, just to hold it down there really well. You could use this instead of basting. Okay, it's really helpful at the apex here. You can also use a glue stick. So just like a washable glue stick. You can get special fabric glue sticks, but honestly they're just glue sticks, just the kind that you would use for paper. So as long as they will wash away, obviously test it on something first to make sure it's not going to be an issue. I can't get this to unstick itself. Here we go. But this is certainly, you know, I used to really be against using any kind of crutches like this. I don't know why. I was a purist. I'm not a purist anymore. So I can just use some of this. Why torture yourself? Why make it hard for yourself when there's things to make it easy? If you're not going into becoming a sample machinist, if you're just sewing for yourself or sewing for your work, for your schoolwork, then, you know, use some tape, use some basting tape. I think this particular one is called Wonder Tape. There's different kinds. But anyway, so you might find this really helpful. You can just tape it all the way down, okay? Like that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we have to sew down here around this corner and up here until we are in line with this row of stitching here, and then we're going to stitch straight across. Okay, so that when we open it, it's going to open here. So I need to mark where that is. Do that using my chalk. Okay, here we go. Got my stitch length a little bit longer. When you're sewing this row of stitching, make sure that this part is free. It should be if your seam allowances were correct. This is where I think it's good to get your tweezers out. You don't want that to be your finger. Pivot. Hold this tip down. There we go. That's our cathedral placket done. So give it a good press and it will be great. When you do your pleating, make sure you're pleating in the same direction that you overlap as the cathedral placket. So pleating this way here. So this is the overlap and that's the overlap. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pleat it over and then just stay stitch it down. So these notches are matching. I'm just going to catch it down within the seam allowance. So just under 1 centimeter, just across like that. Okay.